So I consider the cancer, which was a big surprise, cancer happens to everybody else, doesn't happen to me,
Right.
A spiritual kick in the ass. My goal when I was a kid was to be rich and famous, have a TV show, a major record deal, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
Thinking that power and money and fame would make me happy. Everybody is looking for happiness. We're all looking for the identity of who we are and how do we get, quote, there. There's no there. There's only here now, because every day I practice creating the life I want. It goes throughout the day. So if something happens that's not good during the day, instead of getting really upset about it, I look at it and look inside it and say, how is this and why is this affecting my ego? And is this real or is this not real?
Well, welcome to the Revolutionary Man podcast. I'm the founder of The Awakened Man and your host, Alan DeMonso. How much are we taking life for granted? Maybe a little, maybe a lot. And I suspect we probably don't think about this too much. And why would we? Life seems to be going great, and then life decides to throw us a curveball or really rock our world. We lose a job, we get divorced, or we're given a life-threatening diagnosis. Then what? Well, they say that it's time like these that our character is made, or should I say it's revealed. And today's guest oozes character, as he's going to share his encounter when his foundation was shaken to its core. Now, before I get to all that, I want to remind you to hit like, subscribe, and share on your favorite platform so you can stay updated with our latest content while helping me grow the Awakened Man message. And for that, I want to say I'm truly grateful. So with that, let's get on with today's episode.
The average man today is sleepwalking through life, many never reaching their true potential, let alone ever crossing the finish line to living a purposeful life. Yet, the hunger still exists, albeit buried amidst his cluttered mind, misguided beliefs, and values that no longer serve him. It's time to align yourself for greatness. It's time to become a revolutionary man. Stay strong, my brother.
So as you know, it's customary. I like to start off by asking a couple of questions to help us set the stage for today's talk. So what life shakeup have you received? And did your response match who you thought you were going to be or how you were going to respond? If you've had your attempt of fate and survived, I want to say congratulations. And if you're currently dealing with the tempt of fate, then hang in there, because today my guest is going to share his journey and how he not only survived, but is thriving after being given a death sentence. And I mean that literally. So allow me to introduce my guest. Internationally known singer, writer, and dulcimer player, Kevin Roth has over 50 recordings, won numerous awards, sang the theme to the hit PBS TV show Shining Time Station, and has been recognized by major companies such as Time Warner, Parents Magazine, and Sony Music, among others, for his unique talent. And then in 2016, he was diagnosed with stage 3 melanoma and given only 2 to 3 years to live. Kevin had a choice. He could either get busy living or get busy dying. He beat the odds, changed his diet, outlook, and went on from surviving to thriving, moving from Kansas to the beautiful San Diego, California, where he created a life worth living on his terms. Welcome to the show, Kevin. How are things today?
Oh, great. Thanks for having me.
Right on. Well, hopefully I didn't give up too much of your hero's quest, because that's how I like to start our interview. And that's that I like to tease a little bit about what your story is, because truly when I was reading and getting prepared for today, that you do have truly a hero's quest. And so tell us a little bit more about that quest, especially how you were able to overcome stage 3 melanoma and how that's paved the road to who you are today and your work.
Well, what I'm about to tell you has led me to currently still being a musician, but my main thing is being what I call a creative life designer, or what people think of as a personal coach. So there are a lot of coaches out there, as you know, these days. What makes my coaching very unique is that I use the experience of surviving a death sentence, figuring out the formula for what I did, which I had to do in hindsight, living it every day and teaching other people how to do it. So if people have stress, or they want to if they feel stuck, or they want to start a new business, or get in or end a relationship, or have money problems, whatever the problem that they have, I've got the solution. Now that sounds very bogus. Okay. So let's say I've got 90% of the solution, because if you're giving a terminal illness, I'm not God.
Right.
But what I did, and what I teach people to do, and what they have done, has turned their life around. And it's really quite simple. The reason I bring that up early is because if it not for the cancer, I would have never discovered any of this. So I consider the cancer, which was a big surprise, cancer happens to everybody else, doesn't happen to me.
Right.
A spiritual kick in the ass.
Yeah.
So I was living a folk singer-songwriter life. I had a lot of recordings. I was broke in my early career. I was a millionaire in the middle of it. I was somewhere around the bounds throughout it. My goal when I was a kid was to be rich and famous, have a TV show, a major record deal, yada, yada, yada. Yeah. Thinking that power and money and fame would make me happy. Well, it doesn't. And I know a lot of people in show business, and I don't know any of them that I can tell you are happy. Not one. Not one. Well, actually, maybe one. But he's now 83 and so retired and doing what he wants. But his life, and he's a big star, big star, I'm not going to mention his name,
sure.
Was spent on the road most of his life, working, and not spending it with his family. Then he wised up. Actually, he retired. But everybody is looking for happiness.
Mm-hmm.
We're all looking for the identity of who we are and how do we get, quote, there. There's no there. There's only here now. You don't know if you've got tomorrow, and you don't know what's coming in the next hour, right? So you want to live the life that you want to live now. Okay. You don't want to say, well, I'm going to be retired soon and I'm going to have the money and I'm going to be able to travel. You can drop dead. Trust me, I was supposed to be dead, right? I'll tell you about that in a second. But how do I do it now? I've got responsibilities, I've got bills, I've got this, I've got that. 75% of that is in your head. It's in your head. I have taken clients who have had no money and shown them how to make money doing what they love. Not overnight, but they do it. I've taken people who have 4 cars and 6-bedroom houses, have all the money they could go to the bathroom with, are not happy, and I've shown them how to downsize to a 2-bedroom condo and 1 car, and they're living their dream. So it's in your head. It's in your head. It's all the mind. So the interesting thing that I discovered in 2015, I guess it was, I was diagnosed with stage 3 melanoma out of the blue. It was a little freckle on my nose that some dermatologist didn't like, which turned into, make a long story short, stage 3 melanoma. And there's only 4 stages. And I was told, even though they removed the little 2 spots where the melanoma had metastasized, they said there was a 70% chance it was going to come back within a year. And then within 2 to 3 years, I'd be dead because there's no cure. So I had to wait a year. So during that year, I thought to myself, if they're right, which I didn't think they were, which was my first lesson, trust your gut. Don't always listen to the doctors, because they have this little thing called protocol.
Yeah.
And I told one oncologist, why do you want to do that? Well, it's protocol. I said, well, my name isn't protocol. So I had to decide what mattered to me, why it mattered to me, and what did I want to do. And I figured out that living in Kansas wasn't a happy place to be for me. And what I wanted was to live a bohemian life, playing the dulcimer, hanging out with my dog, Bosco. That's the painting of us for my last album cover.
Nice.
And living in Southern California and creating a life that I liked, that I loved. Had no idea how I was going to do it. Okay. The how is not as important as the why.
That's for sure.
So I created, when I was 13, this dream of becoming a recording artist and star and all that stuff. I created the dream. I found out where it lived and I crawled into it. How did I do that? I believed it. I got a record deal. I got a TV show. I got $1 million, yada, yada, yada. Okay. But what I was searching for my whole life is the same thing you and everybody listening or watching is searching for. I call it the longing. It's the longing. You can call it God, Jesus, Buddha, Moses, or Peter, Paul, and Mary. It's where you come from. And it's mystical. It's mysterious. And you will never know what it is. Ever, 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 ever. Okay. Yeah. So that sounds like spiritual, woo-woo stuff.
Yeah.
But quantum physics tells you exactly the same thing. Exactly the same thing.
Yep.
We are made of atoms, and atoms are 99% empty. So I don't want to get too deep into this, but basically we're living an illusion. We're living a dream.
Yeah.
So my clients say, well, what do you mean we're living a dream? I'm looking at you. I'm talking to you. That gets into another subject, which is another interview for you and I.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is when a client comes to me with, I'm unhappy in my marriage, or I want to do this, but I don't know how to do it, or I'm unhappy, or I'm stressed, or I'm stuck, I find out where their heart is, which is the house, the frame of a house. And I say, okay, now we know what the house is. Now I'm going to show you how to build the interior of your room. You're going to pick the color. You're going to pick the rooms, you're going to all this stuff. And it's fun. And it's fun. So that's what I do with clients. It's a process.
Sure.
It's a process of peeling an onion, which is you. Because what people think their life is about, they're not living the life that they think their life is about. They're living a life to get to something that they want. Okay. So when you're out of time and you're given a death sentence, or you hit bottom, and that could be through alcohol, drugs, a divorce, the loss of something horrible in your life, there's nowhere up. There's nowhere to go but up. So then you learn, okay, what matters? Does having 3 cars matter? Does having a big mortgage that I really barely can't afford matter? Does making a decision financially, which is going to put me up against the wall, feeling really tight, so I can't do what I really want to do because I think this is more important. Is that worth it? Certainly not. So that's what I show people how to do. I showed them what I did, and I said, I want to live in California. I want to live a bohemian creative lifestyle, and I want to somehow or another see where that leads. And every day I get up and I create this life. Every single day I create it.
Love it. Just love it. That is outstanding. I was just taking a few notes as listening to you tell your story, and the book that came to mind was Man's Search for Meaning. Really, and you talk about Viktor Frankl's, and you talk about it being a mystical experience, and really, I think that's what Viktor was saying in his book, maybe not in those words, right? And that makes so much sense that we spend so much time striving for the things in life that we think are important, and it takes life to throw us a curveball or an ultimatum. And now we have to take time to really recognize what's truly important in our life. And it's unfortunate that we we need that kick in the pants to be able to recognize it. And like I said earlier, you went and your character really revealed itself to who you truly were at your core, right? The true essence of who Kevin is shone through. And I just wonder how many of us live that, robotic life where we don't even explore that part of who we are internally, right?
Yeah, I ran into a 24-year-old traveling with his girlfriend yesterday in a van. They redid their van into a traveling little house.
Nice.
Happy as a clam. Of course, he's 24. But, there's two things to know.
Yeah.
These are the facts. Number one, we live in a relative world, whether it's a dream or not. You have bills to pay, you have experiences to experience. You're going to supposedly die, you're going to have to pay taxes. Okay. Whether this is just an illusion or a dream, it's an experience that can't be escaped unless you're so spiritually enlightened you're above it. And I don't know anyone personally that has been there, except maybe one man, and his name was Ramana Maharshi, and I never knew him, but he's a teacher I admire.
Right.
So even though we get caught up in our lives, in the doings of our lives, we forget that we're on a little rock in the middle of absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
We don't think, how did we come onto the planet? Where do we go when we're dead? What's important, what's not? We strive to find happiness, but it's like we muddy the waters, throwing things into it.
Yeah.
So we want more money, we want more things. But when you become simplified, you become really, really happy. Really happy, So that's the joy of my being a personal coach. I just love showing people what that experience is. And I would have never thought of doing it until someone said to me, what's on your agenda? I said, I don't know, I guess I'm going to write a new album. And he said, why? You just overcame a death sentence and you're living the dream, dude. Why don't you teach people how you do that?
Yeah.
And it never dawned on me. So I said, well, how would that happen? He said, well, you become a coach. And then I looked up what personal coaching was. And I got nauseous because I don't like the idea of it. But, I didn't go to school to be a personal coach. I'm not interested in having 1,000 clients. I teach from pure experience that works, and my clients, it works. So when people call me up I do this free consultation for people. Yeah. I'm selective who I work with because I want them to really want to change.
Yeah.
I've had people throw all kinds of money at me, and I know they're not going to listen. I know they're not going to listen. But the ones that have listened, it's one of the most rewarding things I've ever done. And I include the music, the Dulcimer with it, which is really nice.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to get into next. I want to get into how you got into playing the Dulcimer you said you did that for a living. We did some albums with it, but how'd you get them along to even discover this instrument and start to play it and become so good with it?
Well, I found the Dulcimer when I was 13. I happened to end up at a meditation gathering for some strange reason. And there was a girl who played there. She had the Dulcimer and she played a song called Simple Gifts. And I just loved it. And I got to know her a little bit. She was actually getting out of being a musician because she had found a spiritual teacher who was a Sufi. So I followed her to the Sufis kind of fellowship because I was interested in her and the whole thing. Yeah. So I was involved in spirituality and music very, very, very young. And then my whole music career, although it was successful, was really often not a happy one because what I was searching for was an explanation to what the hell am I doing here? Because I always knew as a young kid that this didn't seem real. There was something bigger and I didn't know what it was, but I was the kid that looked up at the moon and the stars at night and wondered why they were hanging up there and why everything wasn't crashing and everything else while other kids were playing baseball. So I was inquisitive that way. And my whole career was searching for that. So no matter how many albums I had or money or standing ovations, I was never really happy until I got hit with the cancer. And then I was forced to go down the rabbit hole and look at my life and say, if you got 2 years to live, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
And the plan was come to California and live a bohemian life. Yeah. I didn't have a lot of money. I had enough money to do it. So what happened was really interesting. I went and I did it, and I didn't die. I never got sick again. And then I thought, well, I'm not going back to the old way. I like this. So I teach people that when you change, when you give up what doesn't work for you and you adopt what does work for you, you don't go back to what doesn't work. So I had to figure out, well, how can I keep maintaining this kind of bohemian kind of life? And how that came to be was through the personal coaching. It fell into place because every day I practice creating the life I want. It goes throughout the day. So if something happens that's not good during the day, instead of getting really upset about it, I look at it and look inside it and say, how is this and why is this affecting my ego? And is this real or is this not real?
Right.
Okay. Excellent. So I'll tell you something really funny. Yeah. 2 hours ago, I gave a podcast interview to a guy from, I think he's from Europe. It was apparent he had no idea who I was. It was apparent he knew nothing about me. So the first thing that came up was anger in me. Then the second thing that came up very, very quickly was, this is happening for a reason. Either for you, Kevin, to look at your ego, or two, go along with this guy. This guy's having a blast. He's asking you ridiculous questions, but look how much fun he's having. He was an older guy. So I settled into it, and it was okay. I still wish he knew who he was talking to a little bit, but he was having a jolly old time. And when I got done the interview, I looked at it and I thought, so the lesson was flow with the river, dude. What did you lose? You had a reasonably good time. He had a great time, and you're going to have another podcast. The old Kevin would have stopped the interview and said, when you read up on me, give me a call. Yeah. Which would have been a very arrogant thing to do, but still, that's why it's always joyful to talk to people like yourself who've done your research a little bit, Yeah. But that's the way I change the negative to the positive by just saying, I don't want to feel angry. I don't want to feel upset. It's an interview. That's all it is. It's an interview. This one isn't going as well as you'd like, but it's going. It's going in the way it's going. And that's perfectly fine. Someone will hear it and like it. Yeah, for sure. And what it takes, what I'm really picking up from you as well is it's really about perspective and helping gain perspective of what's really going on. And I just love that how you're describing that and really checking in with, the emotional state you're feeling at the time, what's going in, able to question it now because of the work that you've done. And so that leads me to the next thing. What I found really interesting about the work that you do is that you've taken, I'll suggest that your first passion was playing the dulcimer, and now you've married it also with what you've been doing since you were 13, and that's on the spiritual journey with meditation. So talk a little bit about this dulcimer meditation that you do and how you were able to incorporate that in your work. Well, actually, someone pointed it out to me. He said, so you play the dulcimer, just chill out. It's sort of like Dulcimer Meditation. And that's where the word came from. What I hadn't realized that all my life in just playing the dulcimer, picking it and just daydreaming, I was really subconsciously, really without knowing it, working through life. I would play music. So when I teach Dulcimer Meditation, so there are two types of people. There's people who have a dulcimer, right, who I teach this to, and there are people who get a dulcimer because of hearing about me. And then I teach them Dulcimer Meditation. Either way, what happens is it's like with a baby. When a baby cries, you put on these little toys, you wind them up and they go ding, 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 right? And the mind goes from to like quiet, okay? Nothing's changed, but the mind is now being lullabied and soothed. So when I sit down in the morning, or if I'm agitated, which doesn't happen very often, but it does from time to time, I play the dulcimer mindlessly, meaning that I play something extremely simple. I don't have to think about it. I don't read music. Neither does anyone who learns this process. You don't even have to be a musician to learn it. It's really, really easy. And while you're just strumming it or picking it very, very gently and very quietly, you then ask your subconscious, what do you need to know? You ask it for direction. So when the mind is 100% fully engaged, it will come up with a whole list of things because it likes to talk. That's all it does, is it yak, 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 yak. That's why they call it a monkey mind.
That's right.
But when you baby the mind and you lullaby it, it gives the mind something to play with while you can listen to your inner voice, and it comes out quicker. So my clients use that throughout the day and sometimes in the evening when they are looking for clarity. So it's a great exercise for clarity. The difference between Dulcimer meditation and meditation is that instead of in meditation where you're sitting in silence, which I find difficult because the mind travels all the time,
Right.
or whether you're humming Om or something, or listening to music, either way, you're occupying your mind with something for it to focus on, which allows now the inner mind, the inner voice to be clear.
That makes complete sense.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, that makes complete sense because you're involving, also the kinesthetic part of your body as well. So you're really immersed into it, and I think that makes so much sense. And it's a great combination of two different techniques to come together. Now you've also taken and you've also added some of the science to this teaching tool. So I wonder if you could touch on a little bit about the science side of it. So we've got the dulcimer and there's the meditation piece, but now you've also incorporated a bit of science to that. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, yeah. So the thing about me is that I'm a skeptic. So you could tell me that to do something and that it works, but until I've experienced it, and I'm one of the most spiritual, unspiritual people I know. Okay, I've got my feet on the ground. I'm not, yeah, man, wow, dude, it's not me. It's just not who I am. So I knew through some of the spiritual teachings of Ramana Maharshi and non-duality, what they said made sense, but I didn't totally get it. And then through an author and actually a wonderful teacher friend of mine named Robert Wolf, who's written many books on non-duality and something called Ajata. What happened is he wrote about science. So he said that according to quantum physics and quoting philosophers and other sciencey people, what they said correlated with what the ancient spiritual teachings said. So this has also been commented by people like Dr. Robert Lanza, who has won many awards for his work. Mm-hmm. It's also been noted by people who deal with near-death experiences, psychiatrists, surgeons, and so forth and so on. Yeah. Those people who have degrees. So it all correlates to one simple answer. And that answer is that this experience we call life is a dream illusion. And what actually exists is something called consciousness. So 2 examples of this real quick. Yeah. They say that space is expanding, the universe is expanding, but into what? Nobody knows, right?
That's right.
They say that everything is the mind. Okay, so where's the mind? So if you ask somebody, normally where's the mind, they're going to say, well, it's somewhere in the brain. Mm-hmm. But if you open up a brain, if you dissect a brain, you're never going to find a mind. It doesn't exist. Yeah. Yet in the relative dream world, the mind exists. So as an example, imagine that you're taking a piece of lemon
Mm-hmm.
Squeeze it in your mouth.
Yeah.
Right. So you're starting to salivate, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's your mind. It's your body-mind connection. But you're not squeezing a lemon in your mouth. It's just so that's how powerful the mind can be. Now, the mind is trainable. You can learn to say, I call it mindful awareness. It's one of the things I teach, is to say, this is feeling uncomfortable, or I don't like this. Most people stay there until they work through it. But when you recognize that that's what's going on, you can stop it by saying to yourself, this is a very temporary situation. I am in charge and I know what to do to get rid of this. There's even on my website at kevinroth.org, it's like 3-minute stress buster breathing technique. 3 minutes. I mean, you breathe in a couple times and you hold it and you breathe out. And that already takes your blood pressure down and all kinds of things. The wonderful thing about what I teach, what I learned, was that you begin to like feeling good. You begin to like feeling happy, and you begin to recognize that you're even under stress. Most people don't even know that they're under stress. They're used to this cloud. So when they come to me and they work with me, I show them through experience, through their own life, the difference. And then they say, oh, okay, I'm not worried as much now, or this person doesn't bother me as much, or I let this go. And then their life becomes more peaceful, and then other things begin to drop away. So I've had clients lose weight because they're no longer emotionally eating. I've had people drop certain addictions in their life because they no longer needed to fill in the emptiness because they feel whole. I've had people become minimalists because they no longer gather things to make them feel good. So everything we do to feel good.
Sure.
But we don't know why we're doing it. We're not sure what good is. But when you get a taste for that, and you taste it, it takes a couple times, you feel, well, that's pretty good stuff. Like I found recently here in San Diego, an ice cream store. It's the best ice cream I've had anywhere. And so I'm never going to go to any other place to get ice cream. I'm going to go to this little funky little store, right? Why would I? Right? I mean, there's a little bit of a line because it's a really great store.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with everybody. When you find something that you really, really like, you say, I'm going with that feeling. I don't want the other feeling. And you change your life. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure. So I wanted to get into talking a little bit now about some definitions, and you've been kind of revealing this throughout our discussion today, but really how you define happiness and success. I get a sense that that has completely changed over the course of over your life now, that it's not what it was before the diagnosis, and sure is different today.
Well, happiness for me is feeling free. Not having encumbered by debts, not being encumbered by worry, not doing things I have to do. So I created and I've had many clients start their own business based on what they want and what they love. What I'm really good at is showing. Someone called me the GPS coach, because like he wanted to open a restaurant.
Yeah.
And when I talked to him about it, what I found out is that what he really loved was desserts. I said, why open a restaurant, which is very expensive? Why not think about doing something with desserts? And we talked about it, and we found a wonderful little funky floral place. And he took over half the space, which really wasn't being used, and opened a very interesting little chocolate store.
Nice.
Okay. And he's thrilled, and he does great business, and he's saving tons of money on rent. So it's creating the life you want. But the first thing I tell my clients, the very first thing we establish is, what don't you want anymore? What don't you want? Well, I don't want to be in debt. Well, I don't want to be lonely. Well, I don't want this. I don't want that. And then when you know what that is, then we can start building a new life, because there's no point in building a house, so like a life, in the city when you really want to live by the beach.
No kidding. Absolutely.
Right. So, but then people say, well, I can't afford a house by the beach. Who says you have to own it? Right.
That's right.
Right. So there's lots of ways of thinking about things. And that's what I show people, because I'm an out of the box thinker.
Yeah.
So the GPS is like showing them the fastest route to where they want to go.
Absolutely. I love the analogy of the story about the gentleman wanting to do the restaurant, and really getting him to hone in on, because lots of us have those types of dreams, right? We have a dream and we think big and big scale of what we want, but truly there's a small aspect of that dream is what's the real driving force. And so I think for you to be able to pull that out of somebody and have them understand for themselves and reveal to themselves what they want, what their true desire is, makes so much sense.
And then you're all excited about it. Then you work on it all the time and it doesn't seem like work.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and if you feel overwhelmed, you take time off because you're now doing what you want. Like I go hiking. I don't work all the time. You don't want to be overwhelmed. There's a course that I teach about starting your own business. And people get very worried and very overwhelmed with the big picture. And it's a step-by-step process. But you can't lose track of income versus pleasure.
That's right.
Okay, so I could make probably a lot more money as a coach, but I don't want to have 20 clients a week. It's too many. The clients that I have are the ones that I concentrate on and I focus on, and they're successful. Because I don't take someone every 45 minutes like a doctor's office.
Right.
That's my approach. That's the way I like to do it.
Yeah, well, and because you have clarity in what you want out of your life and how your life to look overall, right? And I think again, it comes back to that. We get into a position where we believe that this is what we think we want, because whether it's society or however our belief structure has come from, and then we work at this, but we're truly not happy. And like you were saying in your story, until something happened, and then you finally tasted what happiness really was. And it was none of the material stuff, the striving and all of that. It was setting up a life that resonated for yourself, to take back and reclaim, a life for yourself. No, just go ahead. Sorry, Kevin.
No, I was going to say the only other thing that's really important is health.
Yeah, for sure.
Because if you don't have your health, it doesn't matter how much money you have.
Yeah, absolutely. Of everything that we've talked about today, what would be one takeaway, one thing that you would want to make sure that our listeners remembered about everything that we've discussed?
Who they are.
Mm-hmm.
There's a thing I talk about with clients, role to soul. So their role is, I'm a father, I'm an accountant, I'm a boyfriend, I'm a this. That's their role. But who are they as a soul? Well, I'm an artist, but I can't make money as an artist, so I'm putting that to the side until my kids are gone. Well, that's a big mistake, and you don't need to do that. Okay, my role is as a provider. I want to have my 3 kids in private school, so I need to make $150,000 a year, and I need to work 60 hours a week, and I need to kiss my boss's ass, and blah, blah, blah. And the soul is what I really want to do. And I have a funny story about this, is I want to raise my kids in a healthy, loving world. Yeah. So there's a really quick story about a guy who lives in LA, lots and lots and lots of money. Yeah. And they have a dinner party. And he says to his rich friends, I'm moving to Tennessee and I'm building a cabin. And they say, why? They say, because I'm done with this. I'm done with this rat race. So he does, and he goes there and he invites them out. And they all come out for this party on his birthday. And 2 of the wives are standing on his porch, and they're looking out at the Smoky Mountains. And one woman says to the other woman, she said, he moved all the way here, and look, there's still smog. And the other woman says, that's not smog, that's fog from the mountains. and they look at each other like, bimbo LA housewives, right? And they go into their husbands and they scream, I want this, I want this, but they don't know what they want, So it's a funny story that wherever you go, there you are. So you need to know who you are and what matters to you, and don't live the role, live the soul. I just told a client who wanted to do something that would have put them in a financial bind for a year. Why do you want to do that? Well, it's what we do. What's the answer? And I said, well, you really need to look at that, because you do this and your car breaks down, or you want to go on a vacation, you're up against it. So is it absolutely necessary? Well, no, but all our friends, and I go, well, so they're working through that, and they're slowly coming to understand that if they decide to do it, there's another decision on the back end, which is you cannot do anything else because you don't make that kind of money. But if you don't do it, you have a lot of freedom. So pick your way. But once you head down that road, there's no reversing it until you get down to. So those are choices that people make, and they're all individual and they're all different. Okay.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. And it's about recognizing the consequences, for lack of a better term, of our choices and of our decisions, and where we truly want to end up. We also talk a lot in my work about, living a life of purpose on purpose. And so it's about taking purposeful action and understanding every moment, every decision that we're making. And I just want to, I just want to say this has been an outstanding time here we spent, Kevin. I really like the idea of the Dulcimer Meditation and the work you're doing, and would love to have you come back and we can focus a little bit more on the spiritual aspect of your work, because I think that's really intriguing and would do a lot for this audience. So if we were to reach somebody to reach out to you and talk to you about your programs, what would be the best way for them to do that?
Well, you're in the United States?
I'm in Canada.
Okay, you're in Canada. Sound like Canada. Well, because of the Russia problem and internet hacking, you can try my website, which is https kevinroth.org. And if that's not available, I think there's something on my website where you can say I am human or something like that. But if that doesn't work, you can write to me at kevinroth.org @gmail. And there's a free consultation if you feel like resonating with what I said. There's an online course on teachable.com, kevinroth.teachable.com. And those are the two ways to find me. And if you want to know about the Dulcimer, there are pictures of them on my website. But most people contact me through email.
For sure. Excellent. Well, I'm going to make sure I put all that information in the show notes so folks can get a hold of it and get a hold of you and reach out. I just want to say thank you so much for the time today, Kevin. It was very enlightening, and I really appreciated the conversation.
I appreciate you having me. Good talking to you.
Right on.
Thank you for listening to the Revolutionary Man podcast. Are you ready to own your destiny? To become more the man you are destined to be? Join the brotherhood that is The Awakened Man at theawakenedman.net and start forging a new destiny today.